Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast, coming at you live every Friday morning, like we always do. And very excited again, another day, man. Right? Like we're here, we're live, we're on the radio. So we're live, KGCI Radio. Thank you for having us on this morning. We are also live on YouTube at the Elite Network on YouTube. We are also on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you find the Elite Real Estate Podcast, and Jimmy Nelson Real Estate. Don't forget about that piece. So, again, welcome into the show. I am excited again for another guest we have in this morning. I'm going to be bringing him on here in a second. But, guys, listen, thanks. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us on Friday mornings and doing this. And for you listeners who are picking this up later, thanks again for subscribing. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, go find the Elite Real Estate Podcast wherever you find your podcast, and subscribe, go to the YouTube channel at the Elite Network, and find us and subscribe to it. So all those good things are great. I am going to bring on our next guest, and I am very excited to have him here. I'm going to bring him on without further ado. Mr. Darren Peterfi, my man, how are you?
I am great, Jimmy. I am great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, my man. Of course. I am excited to get you on today because you do a lot of stuff, man, and I appreciate all the effort and time and tenacity you put into this business over the years. And for those of you that don't know Darren, he's here in Michigan. And how long have you been in the business?
Oh God. Now you really want me to date myself here.
Well, you started in the business when you were like 10, right?
Actually, I think I'm going on my, when is it? It's 2025. I think my 28th or 29th year.
Incredible. Have you seen some changes over the years?
Not really. It just one or two.
Right. And, I've talked to, agents that have been in the business for, 20, 25 years, whatever, and or 30 years, right? And you talk about changes, and we all panicked a year ago when the NAR settlement came in, right? And we had to do this thing. And for those of you guys that have been in the business long enough, most of you were like, whatever. It's just another paper we got to get signed, right? Not a big deal.
Yeah, honestly, that was exactly it. And I looked at it as a great opportunity. Instead of the doom and gloom, I looked at it as like, man, this is an incredible opportunity to, one, deepen my relationships with my clients, two, deepen my relationship with my agents, and three, watch the market, kind of thin itself down and naturally, change the face of how we do it with our clients and have, I hate to say, less competition out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it ebbs and flows, right? I mean, we see agents get into the business, get out of the business. Obviously, during COVID, we had a big influx of agents because everybody was home. So they decided to take the test. So there was that influx of agents, but you get around long enough, you see this ebb and flow of agents coming in and out. But do you think when you first started in this business compared to if you had to start again now, which was harder, then or now?
I would say now, to be quite honest with you. But again, I think that it's also a generational scenario too.
Sure.
I think that, the millennial group or whatever the next generation is, I don't even know what it's called now. They're more technology driven, where we were, more, communicative driven, and where we were picking up the phones and calling a lot, and we were face to face and door knocking. That's a different phase in today's business. So I think that it's harder today to do what we did 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's something to be said about technology, right? The good and the bad, like, all the things, right? Like podcasts and, CRMs and all the things, right? It used to be the old, like just 30 and 30 cards, right? Like rotating those cards in and out, which has been replaced by a CRM. But the same thing holds true. And I know you talk to agents about this all the time. The same thing holds true. Whether you use those index cards or whether you use a CRM, if you don't use them, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, I don't care if it's a CRM or index cards or a Google spreadsheet, or whatever. If you don't use it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I don't. It can go right down to a old school calendar, that just has people's name written on it, or a to-do list, or what have you. If you're not utilizing it every single day and being consistent, it really doesn't matter how how old, archaic, or new, screaming technology that's out there. It isn't going to matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I have similar recently, right? Gone back fully into production. Not that we were ever out of production, right? But we split a lot of differences, right? You're a team leader, you're a broker, you're doing all the things. But like, you and I were talking briefly before we started today, like whatever anybody asks though, it's always real estate first.
Yep.
Right? It's always real estate first. But how was that transition for you? I know how it was for me, but how was that transition for you going back like big into production?
It's really it's not as hard as anything else, because people that are the most successful live and die by their calendar, right? And you only do the activities that are inside your calendar at the times that are designated for it. So it's not that hard. It's just revising your calendar, erase and replace, and shift your day around. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So it's surprisingly easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we agree on this too. Like the biggest thing we can do and is our calendar, right? I preach it all the time. And we all fall victim to it. We all fall victim of, we move stuff around in our calendar, which is not really removing. We're just not doing that today.
Yeah, we conveniently erase.
Yes, exactly. So, and so how as you're building and growing and doing the things that you're doing, what's your biggest piece of advice for agents now? Like in this current market and trends and all the things that we're in, what's your biggest piece of advice for agents?
My biggest piece of advice is treat this like a job. Not this part-time YouTuber mentality, not to downplay what we're doing here, because, but there's that mentality that, they see you and I on here, Jimmy, and they see you every week, right? And they're like, oh, this is what Jimmy does. He's making tons of money on podcasts, right?
Yeah.
No, you show up every morning, 7:00 at 6:30, you're there in the grind, right?
Yep.
And in your mind, you're like me, you punch in. I got to be there by this time. I got to punch in. And these are the activities I got to do before anybody else shows up or before this next activity. And the biggest advice I could say is, stop living the fantasy and start living the reality. Show up to work every single day. Treat this like a job. And you treat it like it's a McDonald's franchise that at 4 a.m., you got to flip on the light and turn on the big M.
I love that.
And you'll be successful.
Yeah. I love that. Again, it kind of goes back to what we were chatting a little bit too. It's like simple. It's not easy.
Yep, exactly. This is a super simple business, and I don't care which avenue you take, whether you're selling in conventional real estate, listing and selling. If you're investing, if you're wholesaling, if you're consulting, or if you're coaching, it's all the same, right? It's a very simple concept, a very simple business. It's just not easy.
Yeah. And it's again, because really it just goes back to that consistency. And every coach, trainer, every person across the country that I've talked to and had the pleasure of talking to, like you are now, have said kind of the same things, right? Treat it like a job, right? If you work this business like a 9 to 5, like you would just go 9 to 5 and work, you would make more money and be a top 1% real estate agent in the world.
I laugh all the time because I ask people this question, and ironically, I hear it a lot from agents in the business, and it kind of resonates to the mentality. Hey, if I worked at GM and I offered you a job at salary at $250,000 a year, but I need you to work 70 hours a week, would you take it? And the answer is always, yeah, absolutely. $250,000 a year? No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you won't even show up on your own business for $250,000 a year for 25 hours a week.
Right. Yeah. And, I teach, like, if you prospect for 2 to 3 hours a day, every day consistently, right? That's 10 to 15 hours a week of prospecting. You'll make more money than you ever thought you would be able to make in this business.
100%.
If you just dedicate that time to prospecting, right?
Absolutely. If you went to the daily grind and that mentality that says, I'm going to get one appointment a day, just one. I don't care. Back in the day when we were making calls, we'd have 20 conversations, 2 appointments, 5 nurtures, and it would carry on. 80% of them would hold, and we knew the numbers. But in today's market, if you just set one, which could be 5 minutes or it could be 2 hours, just depends on the amount of time. But one appointment a day, think about that now. That's if you just did a 5-day week, which most of us never work 5 days. We're 7-day week guys because this is our business, right? But if you did one, that's 5 appointments a week. That's 52. Oh no, gosh, it's 250 appointments a week, a year, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're talking about substantial number of listings you're going to capture. So if you're just at a 30% capture rate, you're listing 2 properties a week every single week. That's 100 listings a year. And if 80% of them sell, you're talking about 80 transactions a year, which puts you in the top 1% of all real estate agents nationally.
I mean, we can end the show right there.
I mean, it's just that easy, Yeah. It's just, or that simple, I guess, but again, it's back to showing up. Lead generate for 2 hours a day. I don't give a crap. Lead generate for 2 hours a day. Go back home, go to bed. If your appointment's not set for till tomorrow, but you got your one appointment, go to bed. If that's what you want to do, go hang out with your kids. Go to their school. Go take a bunch of content videos and pictures. Sure, if that's what you want to do, that's your fun, sexy. Go ahead, Go do it. You did the one thing, which is that great book, by the way. If anybody haven't read it, the one thing it changed my life, and it changed everybody I know that's ever read it. And just do that one thing every single day. That's really hard. And that lead generation is typically the hardest. You'll be massively successful.
Yep. And you brought those numbers you talked about. I want you to go back. What were the numbers you were seeing when you started in the business, right? Like your contacts and all that.
Yeah, I would have over 2 hours of lead generation. I would have 20 conversations, 2 appointments, and 5 nurtures consistently, like clockwork every single day.
And what type of numbers, what type of volume were you doing then?
18 million.
Yeah.
It was easy, it was just boom, 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 boom. I remember when I was with Keller Williams, I went to Bold, and everybody who's been in real estate for any length of time, I'm sure has gone to a Bold course of some sort, right? And it's a great program because it's about accountability. It teaches you how to be more accountable to yourself and to your business. And I'll never forget this. They were up there talking about it and talking about, that accountability to yourself and what are you going to do that's going to hold you most accountable? And most of us, it's the pain point of money, right? It's the pain point of that check you write, that value. And I got challenged to say, hey, write me a check, and how much would you write it for that would be so painful that if you did not reach the goal that you wanted, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do. And I said, well, 10 grand. Let me write you a check for 10 grand, and it's going to go to a charity. And if I don't reach my goals, and my goal was to have 10 listings by the end of Bold, right? I says, I think I can do that, And then I laughed and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? That she's got a check in her hand for 10 grand.
Right.
But what I did was I listed 19 properties during that 8-week period of Bold, crushed my goals, and it set me on a path to massive success afterwards. And it was all because I took the risk of saying, hey, I'm going to put this out there. And that's what held me accountable.
Yeah. And that's the biggest piece. And, I did it very similar at a different brokerage, but I didn't do 10 grand. I wasn't that crazy. I did, but I did a grand, but I also didn't have a grand at the time either. When I first started, I'm like, well, I'll write you this check for $1,000, but it ain't going to cash anyway.
Yeah. But we're going to have bounce fees and everything else.
Yeah.
And not only that, I don't want to be that guy that they put the check on and say, hey, you know what? He put it out there, but it wasn't any good.
Right. And then I'm like, my wife's going to kill me if they actually cash this thing. So I got to do some work here. And it was set up to say very similar, right? We were just keeping track. We had to be in the office by a certain time. We had to get so many contacts per day, and if you weren't hitting your numbers, then again, that donation went to a charity, right? And you had to pick out a charity you didn't want it to go to.
That was exactly it. I put it to something that I did not want to put my money into.
Yep. And it was like, man, if that goes there, that is going to hurt, man. That is going. I just do not want that. And I had an agent. I was coaching an agent. This is a few years back, and she did the same thing. So she did the same thing. She wrote me a check. We did something very similar, and she wrote them to her ex-husband. She wrote her ex-husband in these checks and said, if I don't do this, you can send these to my ex-husband. And I was like, wow, that's
yeah. Honestly, and we talk about pain points of money and stuff like that, but the best one that I ever saw is I was coaching an agent who didn't have the money, right? It's kind of like you were just talking about. I wrote a check, but I didn't have it. So what we did, and I asked her what her why was, right? And her why was to teach her children that you could be more, that you are in control of your life, and you don't have to follow the conventional system, that you can be more, that if you just built it and worked at it and worked hard, you could be more. So she wrote a letter to her children that said, I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry that I let you down and I had to go get a job at a 9-to-5 job because I failed you and failed to do what I needed to do every single day to be successful. And that was a powerful thing.
Oh, man. That's like right to the heart.
Exactly.
That is right to the heart.
Could you imagine, right, having to give your child a letter or your spouse or your significant other and say, hey, here's a letter, and I'm sorry. And they're reading this going, I failed. I failed you. I failed myself. I failed my family. I had to go take this job, which took time away from my family, which took money out of our account because I spent all this money and time and effort in real estate that I failed at. And I'm sorry, right? That's a very humbling letter to write.
Oh man. Yeah. That I thought, a friend of mine, a coach that I had at one point, said something similar, but different. But he said, Jimmy, if we followed you around with a camera all day and just videoed you all day, everything you did all day, and then you went home and showed it to your family, would your family be proud of what you did today?
Yep.
I was like, I don't know.
And I talk about this almost every week with agents. And my last thing on the calendar every single day before I go to bed is, would you rehire yourself? You examine your day, and I always tell everybody, would you rehire yourself to run your business tomorrow? We should be interviewing every single day, right?
Right. Because we are unemployed every day. Yeah, we're unemployed every day.
Yep.
And we choose that.
I should be interviewing for my job every single day. And if I would not rehire me, why would clients or agents hire me?
Right. See, that's key, right? And I think one of the things that you hit on there too is like we're interviewing every day, right? And really that's what we're doing when we're trying to get a listing, right? When we're prospecting, we should be interviewing, letting them know all the things that we do, right? What do we provide for them? What's our value proposition? Again, even on the buy side too, outside of being able to open the lockbox, what's my value proposition to you to use me as an agent?
Yep. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. What do I bring to the table? And that's whether I'm coaching an agent or whether I'm working with a client, a buyer or a seller or whatever. I actually coach other people outside of the real estate industry, just business owners in general that I coach with, and what's my value proposition that I bring to the table that's not just real estate business related.
Yeah.
And you've got to have that. You've got to be prepped. You got to be ready. You got to be bringing that, every single day.
Yeah. And again, we have, there's so much opportunity out there. That's the other thing. I don't mind sharing anything that we share because there's so much opportunity out there for real estate agents to go get business, right? There's business for all of us everywhere. And that's why I get confused sometimes when other agents are trying to like just, hoard everything like they're squirrel hiding nuts in the winter. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, there's enough business out there. Like, how do you do this? And I also find it interesting that as we're out here teaching and developing the next group of agents, right, that are coming up through that. Look, we're old guys, man. We don't want to be we don't want to be in this business till we're 90, right? We want to get out of it at some point. But yeah, how many agents retirements do you go to? Not many.
No, and the one thing that's great about this is that, when you reach certain levels, you start to be able to do more of what you love, right? It's the podcast, it's the coaching, it's the the speaking engagements and things like that you love, if that's your thing, right? Or whatever it is. You get to do more of that and less in the production and such, because it may be production is what you love, and that's what you just do every single day. Because let's face it, if you do what you love every day, you're never really working. You might spend a lot of hours, but you're really never working.
Yeah. No, and that's I think the thing is about this business, I like to be around people. That's right. I bring up COVID. Like, COVID was hard on me. I'm a hugger and a handshaker. You know what I mean? Like, this the whole distancing thing was weird for me. But no. So I find it interesting when agents, and again, are there those days that I sometimes I get home and I tell my wife, like, I'm just done peopling today. I just don't want to I don't want to people anymore. Hey, there are those days, don't get me wrong, but I show up with a smile on my face. I'm big on, like, you have to bring in the right attitude and the right, distinction of, I'm not going to let this day bring me down. Right. I'm going to power through whatever happens today. Yeah. Is it a crappy day? Sure. I have crappy days just like everybody else, but I can't let that affect me long term. Right. And at the end of the day, is it really that bad?
No, and that's exactly right. Is it really that bad and that difficult? And the answer is, in reality, no. Because I tell you what, if you had to take me and put me back behind a counter or be punching a clock for somebody else, or back on an assembly line or something like that, oh my God, that would be a personal hell to me.
Yeah.
I don't care how much my phone rings, or how many calls I got to take, or how many problems I have to solve, or how many fires I got to put out to make sure that the deal gets to the closing table, or whatever. I'll take that trouble all day long over going back and punching a clock for somebody.
Yeah. It is hard as it is some days, right? Like, as difficult and as hard as, like, some days can be, I wouldn't change it, right? Like, I wouldn't change it.
No, I would not change it for anything at all. I mean, this is the greatest industry in the world, because it allows you to do everything you want to do and more. And if you put forth the gusto and the oomph, right, and just dive and put all yourself into it, it yields all of your most amazing dreams that allow it to come true. And it's phenomenal. It's what this can do for your life and your lifestyle, and whether it's financial freedom or time or whatever. It can allow you to do so many things that other people just sit back and dream and say, oh, they're just so lucky. I'm not lucky. I work my ass off, right? What they didn't see is the 5 a.m., up in the morning, in the office by 7, eating right, exercising, meditating, listening to podcasts, building myself up and being prepared for the day. They didn't see any of that. They just saw the snippet that's like, man, look at that. It's 12 o'clock and he's on a golf course, or it's 12 o'clock on a Thursday and they're on the lake, or whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't see what it took to get there.
Right. That's when, you're hitting so many points, man. But, like, that's one of the things I always say too, when people say, oh, it must be nice. Yeah, it is. You know what it took to do it?
Yep.
Like you just said, you're finalizing some construction on your new house, right? Must be nice to have a new house.
Yeah. Except for they don't see the sacrifice of living in an RV for a year and a half. And thank God my wife is a saint, because, oh my God, I don't know who else would want to put up with me in a camper for a year and a half, in that close quarters like that, for a year and a half, almost 2 years. and let alone Jimmy with 4 dogs. So God bless her. She must be an absolute saint because I don't know I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the work and effort it took to paying for that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, all the strive, like, yeah, it must be nice to have a brand new house. You know what? It is. You want to see what happened?
Yep, exactly. And a lot of people say, "Oh, it must be nice to have your debt paid off, or it must be nice to have your cars paid off, or your house paid off." Yeah, you know what it took to get there?
Yeah.
Is that I didn't take 12 vacations a year. I took one, right?
Yep.
I didn't smoke and drink every single day. So there's a $200 a week I can put towards those things, right? To become free. And so I'm not tied to the man, and credit cards and debt and all that other stuff that drags you down and creates that emotional stress that you constantly are chasing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of, time and effort. And again, to your point, it's the things that people don't see.
Yes.
Like I said, we were chatting a little bit before we started today, and I said, like people will come to me and say they don't want to do a podcast. I'll show you everything how to do it. I'll teach you the whole thing, but it goes back to the same thing. It has to be consistent, and the same rings true with your business. And if you're not consistent with your business, none of it really matters. I can teach you everything I know.
And today I have all the intentions, and here in a minute we'll dive into probably some of this AI driven technology for listings and things like that. And I'm an open book, and I'll literally lay out the playbook and be like, here, this is exactly how you do it, right? And
Yeah.
here's what'll happen. My phone will ring and say, man, that was awesome. I loved it. I don't have the capacity to do that. I just need you to do it for me. How much do I need to write you a
Right.
check for? Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Here's how much it's going to run you. I
Yeah.
mean, but those are the same individuals that are not willing to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do what they got to do and get their mind right and be ready when that time comes to be like, boom, I'm on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the amazing part is, again, like knowing exactly how to do the things, right? And what we are, but how is it? How again? I can write you a check, right? Great, but what does that mean? Like, and again, can you write the check? If you can, that'd be great. But that's a little bit different than what. But if you put the time and effort in, you can learn all of the things. But I think the key is this, and I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but we can learn all the things, but you got to get really good at 3 and own 3 things that you're really good at. Then you can add more, right?
Yep.
You've been in the business for 20 some years. You're adding more than 3, but you're really good at probably 3. There's probably 3 pieces of your business that you could teach a master class on, at least.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. And you cannot move forward until you've mastered those 3. Until you've mastered them where you are at like the epitome of your industry in those 3 aspects. Okay. You don't get the right to be creative. You don't get the right to be like, oh, I'm going to blaze a trail and I'm going to be the new blah, blah, blah. Hey, no, you don't get that right because you will be out of this business in less than 2 years, back at Dollar General. And not downplaying Dollar General, but you'll be back behind the counter, punching a clock for somebody, and it could be GM, it could be Ford, it could be Chrysler, it could be anything, right?
Yep.
And you'll be back going, man, I wish I would have.
Yep.
If I had only done this.
If I had only.
Yep.
If I had only. Kurt Chiwell just sat in and he said, any of these women married to us, he said, any of these women married to us are very special women. To be us and do what we do at the level we do it at requires amazingly strong women to deal with us. It's literally living with a monster.
100%. 100%. Because when I can count on probably one hand the amount of people I have in my circle that I know well enough that are passionate enough about their business, that are passionate about helping others and watching other people grow, and actually rooting for them to win more than myself. Right?
Yeah.
I get on one hand the amount of people that are those people, and those are the monsters. Those are the true monsters that are like, that's the circle I want to be in. But it's the behind the scenes, spouses that are like, yeah, but you have no idea what it takes to be with that person, right? it's this thing going off nonstop. It's the questions, the conversations, the constant input that you're giving that really changes all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple weeks ago, it's about a month ago now, I was in the hospital, had diverticulitis, whatever. Um, but my my wife said to me, she goes, "I hate your phone." And she literally just shut it off. She's like, "I can't even take it anymore." She's like, "'Cause I just shut it off. I could." I'm like, "Why didn't you keep answering it?" Yeah. She's like, "It drives me crazy."
Yeah, no, I know it, and it's really hard, it's really hard to be in those shoes and that's why we do what we do. Not everybody can do this. Not everybody can be at this level, right?
Right.
It takes that special few that can do that have a heart to help others and typically want them to win more than we want us to win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, and that's that I was on a podcast with John Kitchens, and we were literally saying the same thing. It's really hard, and that's a heavy lift for us when we're trying to pull somebody that we know can do it, but they're just not right. And but we see it, and we're trying to pull. That becomes a heavy burden for us, and it's hard. Though that's where things get really hard, right?
No, you're exactly right. They have to want it.
Yeah.
I cannot constantly want it more than you do.
Yep.
I can root for you. I can be there. I can give you all the tools. I can be there right by your side, lifting the heavy material, right? But you got to lift too. That's the thing, and I can't want it more than you do.
Yep. Yep. Al says, "I definitely have his blood type. He's very driven." Yeah. Jeffrey Garner says, "That's gold. I need to change my routine." And our good friend Robert Walker, excellent message this morning.
Awesome.
So good stuff. But let's dive into some AI stuff. What's the AI stuff that, like, again, it's changing everything. And we're older guys, right? Like we've been around for a minute. And I literally use it 10 times a day, probably. I'm doing something in ChatGPT again, and sometimes I'll be sitting at home, watching TV with the wife or whatever, and I'll just pull up ChatGPT on my phone and just start messing with it, right? And trying to do different things with it, trying to build different stuff with it, like, and just getting it to know me. So those dead times or whatever that's I'm on my phone, but I'm messing with ChatGPT kind of all the time.
And the more you use it, the more it gets to know you, right?
Yeah.
And understand you and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to be and who you're trying to be and sometimes just who you are. So I leverage that. I leverage everything around me that I can leverage. That's smarter than I am. Okay. If you're not consistently growing in this business or any business at all, if you're not consistently growing with the technology and the systems and the processes all around you, you're already a dinosaur. You're doomed to be extinct, right? So what I do is I infuse all of these things together, and I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and this, and I kind of, okay, how does this all mesh? How does it blend, right? Because we all know there's a level of old school activities that are tried and true and working no matter what you do, right? If I handwrite a card to you, Jimmy, you're going to open it 100% of the time.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're just curious, what's Darren sending me today? What's a handwritten card from Darren? What is this, right? You're going to open it 100% of the time. But yet, instead of writing a card, we'll pick up a phone where maybe you'll only answer 5% of the time because you've got 95 other things to do, right? But you'll open that card 100% of the time. So that old school mentality of handwriting cards is more powerful than picking up the phone or going online or social media or whatever, right? Because those are all controlled by other entities that whether you're determined to be seen or not seen and algorithms and all that other fun. So I sat back and I said, okay, how do you blend that old success with today's driven technology? And AI is moving faster than any one of us can even process, right? Yeah. It's growing like a baby chicken right in front of you. And if anybody ever raised a chicken, holy cow! I swear to God, they grow while you're watching them. It's insane. They go from an egg-sized chick to like a full-grown chicken in 4 or 5 weeks. And it's like, holy cow, how did that happen, right? And AI is moving faster than that because it's evolving every minute, every second. It's taking all the information from around the world and it's plugging it in and it's getting smarter, right? And it's understanding. And every real estate agent out there using ChatGPT for their business, it's getting smarter and it's understanding and it's taking this and this and this and this. And now it's giving you better answers. It's giving you better information and things of that nature. So I said, you know what? Let's start infusing those different pieces into our business. There's algorithms now that will tell you, hey, I know with a 70% accuracy of who's going to sell their home now every single year. So, if I gave you 300 people, that's your farming market, I know that 240 of them are for sure going to sell their home this year. So, right. Jimmy, if I said, hey, here's 300 people, of those 300 people, 240 of them are going to sell this year. Your job is just to go get in front of them. What are you going to do, right? Are you going to go off over here and spend all your time at some network event? Or are you going to go dive into these 240 people and say, I need to find which one of these are going to hire me today,
Right.
So what I did is I took that predicted analytics and plugged that into, okay, now we're going to handwrite cards to those people. Because I know I can pick up the phone and call, but my answer rate in today's market is about 2 to 5%. Some days it's 10%, but 2 to 5% is about the answer rate now. So I can either pick up the phone and call them nonstop and get a 2 to 5% answer rate, or I can mail them a card and get 100% answer rate, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to mail these cards. Now, what I do is I take those people and I put them all into a list and we have a handwriting machine and we do some cool stuff there. And you can leverage it even further out and hire a company that does all that for you, right? Handwrites the cards and mails them out and all that fun stuff. But the biggest piece of that puzzle is what are you going to say inside that card that's going to cause them to call you, right? That call to action that's either going to bring them to your website, give them a digital valuation, what's my home worth, capture their info, give you the lead, and then you can then respond. So I leverage ChatGPT every day and say, hey, how do we have a better conversation and create a better call to action inside of that handwritten card? Okay. And that gives us great insight. And honestly, it changes every day. That message actually changes every day. It changes with the season. It changes with the month. It changes with the time of the year and everything. So every month, my letter that goes out to all of those clients is different every single month because ChatGPT tells me how to tweak it, how to make it better. And I've even gone as far as to ask it, hey, what's wrong with my message that I sent last month that did not yield any engagement? And it'll tell me your call to action was weak. Maybe tweak your call to action in this fashion. And anybody who knows farming is not an instantaneous, right? It takes time. It's like Novocaine. Sooner or later it works, right? But you just gotta wait for it. Because it takes that minute to build the brand to be in front of them at the right moment when they say yes.
Right.
And that's all of us ever want to be. We just want to be in front of them at that moment when they decide, yes, that's the time. You're the person I need to talk to.
Yep. Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, man. There's a lot to unpack there, right? And the first thing I want to say is like your thoughts and your process about farming is it is like Novocaine. Like you just have to. It's literally farming, right? It's like a farmer doesn't throw corn in the ground today and it pops up corn tomorrow, right? It takes time. It takes the water. You got to take care of it. You got to fertilize it. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to keep the bugs off of it. There's a lot that goes into farming that piece of that corn stalk that's going to grow eventually. Right. We wish everything grew like overnight, like the chicken, but it doesn't. Right. So, so when you started this thing, and this is a great piece of business. How wide and like far did you go? Like, did you go really far with it? Like your area you were covering?
So that's a great question because everybody wants to like throw this giant net, right? I want to get everybody. I want to capture all of this, blah, blah, blah. What I said was pick a market that's within 30 to 45 minutes of where your home base is at, and pick a market that yields high turnover ratios, which that data is so easy to get, it's ridiculous. Two, yields a price point in which makes sense for you to run your business in, right? And three, is something that you are not going to go, oh, I got to go here today. I got to drive here today, right? That's a mindset, right? So it keeps you in a positive mindset. So pick that market that's within 30 to 45 minutes of your home base that answers those three questions. Is my turnover ratio at 6% or higher? That's a key. That's a massive key, because if I'm marketing to people, everybody says, "Oh, I'm gonna be at own my neighborhood." Great, but your neighborhood's a 3% turnover ratio. You're spending all this time and effort for one person,
right?
When I could do the same effort here for 5 people, which makes more sense.
Yep.
Well, I'd rather take the 5 people than the one, right? As long as it's in the price point of where you want to be. Secondly, again, the price point matters. If you want to build clientele that is $300,000 clients, market $300,000 homes. Don't market $100,000 homes. And build your business in that fashion. And then thirdly, know that market well. Understand that market. Know what goes on inside there. Those agents that try and cast that giant net and say, I'll go anywhere. I'll go to Marquette. I don't even care.
Right.
Oh, that's great. But what's happening in Marquette today? What's the average turnover ratio in Marquette? Does anybody even know what the average sale price in Marquette is? Does it matter if the price point is different between Marquette proper and Ishpeming, which is the property right next door to the proper downtown area? Unless you know that, don't go there, right? And unless you're going to be that expert, don't go there, because you're going to go have a conversation with somebody who knows their market better than you do. And that can never be the case.
Oh man, you're hitting on some nerves for people right now.
100%, and it's a tough reality to swallow, and I see all these agents all the time that are like this, man, I'm just going to throw this massive net out on the internet, and I'm going to be on a social media monster, and I'm going to go everywhere. That's awesome. But logistically, you cannot be there. Now, when you're a brand new agent, you take leads anywhere, right?
Yep.
Because you're like, man, I got to get a deal. I got to go. And you're in Grand Rapids, and you're in Rapid City, and you're in Detroit, and then you're in, the Thumb, and then you're up at Traverse City, and you're just like, you know what? I got to take the deal because I got to survive. I get it. I understand it. But as you build your business, you want to really get that honed into a home market that really just makes sense for you, And I talk to agents all the time that say, oh, I'd love to come on board with you, but your office is just so far. It's a 20-minute drive. We've gotten so lazy with our business now that we're not even willing to make a 20-minute drive to build our business to the next level. Yeah. And it's crazy the mindset that is. But if I gave you a listing that was in Grand Rapids, you'll jump right on it and take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Oh man. Yeah, you're hitting on a lot of things right now. And I think the clear message is too, right? Is you said, folks, like you have to build a business, right? Like, and if you're new, you have to work, right? And you have to put in a lot of time and effort to do these things. And a lot of coaches teach that, start farming in your own neighborhood first, which is fine. It again, it depends on your neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. Where are you finding the turnover rate? Like where are you going to find that turnover rate? And let me ask you this question. What is the turnover rate? What does that mean?
So I leveraging technology, right? We can use our MLS to gain any data we really want to gain. Okay. So I go into our MLS, and those of us that are in our, Southeast Michigan market, most of us are on Real Comp in some way, shape, or form. So I go into Real Comp and I just start plugging in zip codes. I start with a zip code, and then I start dialing it in from there, right? Which sections of this zip code are selling, and how many. So first thing, I go to the public record and I say, how many homes are in this area, right? Well, there's 3,212. Great. How many homes sold in the past 12 months in that same market? Oh, of those 3,200 homes, there was 300 that sold. Well, that's a 10% turnover market, right? Yep. 9.7, that's massive. That's a monster market. So I'm going to start dialing into that. And then I'm going to start breaking it down by subdivisions. Which subdivision in this little quadrant is where it has the most? And now it takes a minute. Right? Now, this isn't something that just jumps at you overnight, right?
Sure.
You're going to go in and you're going to compile this data, and you're going to look at this neighborhoods, and you're going to say, okay, this neighborhood's hot. It's over 200,000. It's over 300,000, whatever it is. It's got 284 homes in it. And of those 284 homes, 12 of them sold. Oh, great. That's a 5% turnover ratio, 5.8 or whatever it is. I'm going to jump all over that, right?
Yep. Because
I know that there's going to be more homes that turn over in that. And by turnover, I mean that list and sell, in that neighborhood based on the number of homes that are in there. So if you're picking an area that's got 300 homes in it and, 30 of them sell, there's a 10% turnover ratio. So that's how I determine where I'm going to market. And, condos are great for that because condos are traditionally 2 years. Condos are traditionally a 2-year time stop. Either you're transitioning from a bigger home to a smaller home, and then you're figuring out where you want to be, or you're a first-time buyer and you're kind of moving into a condo because you don't have kids yet or what have you, and you're trying to figure out that life, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody and you get married and then off buying a home, right? On average, it's about 2 years. So condos are great for that. If you look at condo complexes, which ones have got the turnover ratios that you want? If it's got 200 homes in it and 20 of them a year are selling, man, I'm going to park my happy butt right there in that condo complex, and I'm going to live right there. So, understanding those is going to help you a lot. So I garner all of that data from the MLS, and then I go to the flip side in the predicted analytics, and I utilize Remind and Offers for all of my data. And I pull all that data in to be able to, get the information I need on who's actually going to be selling in those markets.
Yeah. Man, you are dropping some bombs right now. And we got some, Alice says he's throwing some serious bombs. He said he's hiring you without an application. He also says he knows his numbers better than most in the business. And I will tell you, the reason that, Darren, you are successful is because you do know your numbers, right? That is the main reason. Like, again, you're not casting wide nets. You're throwing darts, right? Now, yeah, are you mailing out to 3,000 people? Yes, probably, right? And I'm guessing on the number. But at the same point, those are very specific 3,000 people that you're mailing out to.
And ironically, it's even easier than that. I limit myself to 300.
Oof.
I don't even cast that gigantic net. I do it 300. Now, here's why. Look at these numbers. And again, this is why I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm obsessed with my business, right?
Yeah.
Those 300 people, if the predicted analytics tells me that 70% of them are going to sell, that's 240 people, right? My job is to go get 10% of them. That's all I need. All I need is 10% of those people that say yes. So I'm going after only 24 people a year to tell me yes. Now, why only 24? Well, that means I got 10% market share in this little area. There's no agent anywhere in Michigan that owns more than 2% of a market share anywhere.
Right.
So if I own 20% or 10% of that market share, I'm the most dominant agent in that market. Okay. Now, my signs are going up everywhere. 24 people are going to sell. That means 24 listings hit the market. My signs are out there all over. That means 24 people have to buy as well. That's 48 transactions a year. after just trying to focus on 24 people, that's 48 transactions a year. But you just take an easy $200,000 sale price, which in our market in Genesee County, that's pretty average. You go down to, your market in Oakland County, it's 240 to 312, right?
Yeah. Our team last year was 259 was our
right.
number.
So 259, right? So you take that 24 transactions that's listings, and they're either moving upward or downward. Okay. So you take that 259 times 48 transactions on average, you're at what, 12, 13 million in business?
Yep.
How many other agents do you know that do 12 to 13 million in business?
Not many.
And that's just that piece of the business. Now, that's not taken in the fact that when I list a property, I send a mailer to that neighborhood, that immediate neighborhood that says, hey, just listed. And then I pick up the phone and call that neighborhood after they get my just listed card and say, hey, Bob, I'm calling your neighborhood because I know statistics show when one house comes on the market, two more immediately follow. Just call to see if you're one of those two people, right?
Yep.
And then your odds of increasing your listing business significantly increases. It's so easy to do 100 transactions a year. People just are not willing to put the work in.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think because it's the shiny object too, right? You're like I said, when we first started this conversation, it's like get real boring, right? Just be real boring every day. Just do the same thing and be real boring with it every day. Get in a routine, be very boring, hit your mailers, make your phone calls, get your dials, get your appointment, get out, right? That's the real, the just simplicity is genius part of this business. Now, that you're the amazing part is, again, you said you're just making phone calls because you know that one house gets listed, 2 to 3 more are coming up. And then you make the phone call and say, hey, are you one of those other people? Because now what do people want? They want to be like everybody else. Well, What did John sell his house for? Right? How much did John sold his house for that much? Are you kidding me? My house is way better than that. Right? Oh my God, that's the first thing. Oh, my house is way better than John's house. John didn't even do this to his house. I did this. Right? And so now it becomes a competition of, can you sell my house for more than you sold John's for?
Exactly. That's a great question. Let's put some data together. What works best for you? Afternoons or evenings? We'll get down and sit down and take a look at it. Right? It's just that simple. And next thing you know, you're on, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 appointments a week, and you're getting better at the conversations. Right?
Yep. Now
you dominate your market, and now you've hired a buyer's agent to handle all your buyers because now you're listing the home. Now they're going off with your buyer's agent to go out and find them a home to get them into. And now you've leveraged those people around you to be able to do those different things. Yep. And I'm still doing 100 transactions a year because I'm listing properties, but all my buyer's agents are handling all the buyers and they're running with them and they're captive clientele. They're ready to go because their house is on the market and they have a vested interest in finding something today because I'm selling their house in 7 days or less. And I'll tell you right now, Jimmy, and this is a little plug, I'm 13 for 13 selling homes at open houses, and 11 of them I've double dipped.
Hey, it's not bragging if you back it up, right? Like that's the old saying, right?
Exactly. Yep. The old Kid Rock saying, ain't that's bragging right. If you back it up. But it works. These systems work. Yeah. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm nobody special. I put forth the effort every single day, and I'm boring 90% of the day.
Yep.
I shine 10% of the time.
Yeah. That's just the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I want agents to be clear on this too, right? Again, this isn't something that happened overnight, right?
No.
Like goes back to that what we talked about before. My son just gave me a good saying, and he's like, just chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. And I'm like, wow, I really like that one. He's like, that's what he's away at school. And he's like, yeah, that's what I've been doing this semester. Chop wood, carry water. I just have to do this thing every day. And it's boring. It's routine. It is what it is. And I think the same thing goes for our business and what you were just breaking down for everybody. But again, it's simplicity is genius, but you have to focus on that one thing. So I don't want everybody that's listening now or later to just go out and buy a bunch of mailers and mail them out one time, because that's not how this works.
Nope. You got to be consistent. This is a 12-month program, and you've got to be consistent for 12 months, right? You know, people going to gain weight in the holidays. It doesn't take them 2 days to lose all the 40 pounds they gained all the winter, right? It takes them all spring and half the summer to lose that weight.
Yep.
The same process. You've got to be consistent. You've got to mail out consistently. You've got to hammer it hard at first, every week for 4 weeks, and then back off. And now you're once a month, every single month. Now, because you've got to hit them hard at first so they know who you are. And then every single month, now they're looking for it. They're looking for your information. And you've just got to be consistent every single month for 12 months. And if you're not willing to do that, don't even start. Don't even start, because you've just wasted your time and money.
Look, man, you are dropping some knowledge bombs, and I love it, because it is so true. And again, it goes back to that thing, consistency, knowing your numbers, doing the boring things, looking up what's the turnover rate in this neighborhood, then boiling it down to even like the turnover rate in a subdivision, finding all that information out, and then just literally just hammering away on that area and that piece of where it is. And I think that is one of the probably the biggest message out of this episode today, is just being consistent with your business, focusing on 3 things, that's it, and just hammering away at it. And farming is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Everybody would be a farmer if it was easy.
Yep. You're exactly right. And everybody would be out there buying land and tractors and equipment and everything else. That all costs $1 million. Farmers are, it's no joke, right? It costs money to be a farmer. It's big risk. But it's big reward. So farming and real estate is the same concept. It's big risk, but it's big reward, because if you're not going to be consistent, that's where the risk comes in, right? Is you lose. But again, time over time, it's found to be very, very successful. And every agent out there that you talk to that is consistently farming and has success in it, and typically it's big success. It's not minor success. It's normally big success.
Yeah.
And it's just consistency all the time. And that's the one thing that they will all say.
Yep. And it's boring.
It's very boring. It is very, very boring. But want to know what? When your house is $1 million home and it's paid for, and you've got $50,000 pontoon paid for, and you're driving a brand new truck paid for, and whatever. You know what? Hey, how boring is that? Right?
Not boring at all. Look, man, we've got about 2 minutes left. Where can everybody find you on social media? You're in Michigan. Where can we find Darren Peterfi?
It's pretty simple. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me. I think I'm on Instagram too. I'm not a huge social media guy. I have a great group that works that for me. Megan Murphy and Real Leverage Solutions. They do all that for me, and which is awesome. But I think I'm on TikTok. I think I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. The best way, honestly, I'm an old school guy. Pick up the phone and call me or email me. My cell number is super simple. I don't even care. Everybody, it's out there, 810-397-9179. You can call me, text me. You can email me, Darren@tobeexclusive.com. You can call my office, 855-58-HOMES. Nicole can plug you into my calendar. We can get on there. You can get on my Calendly, which is super easy to do. And just send me an email. It's all right there. It's really, I'm the easiest guy in the world to reach, Jimmy. I'm not a big social media guy. I'm out there. I'm there. But it's not my first and foremost. My first and foremost is the boring, right?
Yep.
And it's all that. But yeah, you can find me. It's super easy.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, man, this hour always goes by fast, right? And the better the show and the more interesting everything is, the faster it even goes. And this went by in a blink of an eye. So I appreciate you jumping on with me this morning and finding out exactly how to cook in this business.
Absolutely. I got the recipe. Anybody wants it, call me. I've got it written down. I'll be happy to share it to you like grandma's apple pie.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Darren, thanks again, my man. Everybody, thanks for jumping on the Breakfast Club line, KGCI Radio. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you all. We will be back again next week on the Elite Real Estate Podcast. You can go find us everywhere you find podcasts. Go to the EliteEdgeNetwork.com. You can find us on YouTube at the Elite Network and all those places. So we will see you next Friday.